Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in this virtual event where we're celebrating Glass's 4th anniversary. We really are happy to have you today with us. I'm Paula Santana and I'm the founder and CEO of Glass. And Glass was founded back in 2017 with the dream, a collective dream to transform governments into high-performing entities. Governments are the biggest decision makers in the world. They're also the largest buyers in any community, and they have the deepest pockets to invest in outstanding and groundbreaking public infrastructure projects. We believe in a world where opportunities are accessed by everybody, so everybody has the same opportunities to thrive. And we think that governments are the catalysts and the enablers of these opportunities, and this is why we're so committed to help them transform, to improve their processes, to simplify them, and to actually go hand by hand with them on their digital transformation journeys. I want to tell you a little bit about the work we've been doing at Glass in the last 4 years. We started doing very early research into how to improve and simplify and make outstanding, delightful experiences for government users, whether it's for a procurement process or any other type of process. We really wanted to understand what was the pain that governments and government users were feeling when they had to conduct their everyday operations. So we started looking into that, and that led into some early development of algorithms and big data analysis. So we can really provide better information and insights in real time to government users, especially government decision makers that need to make very urgent and important decisions in real time. Fast forward to 2019, we had the opportunity to share our vision with the world and to share some of the early work and research that we've been developing at the Singularity University Global Summit. It was an amazing opportunity. We also shared our early research and the AI algorithms and how we feel that we can bring and we can unleash amazing value for governments. That led us also to apply and get into Alchemist Accelerator. Alchemist is the #1 accelerator for enterprise or governments, and we were able to really advance how we were talking and thinking and visioning our solutions and products for governments. That first exercise of design thinking for government and with government led to the creation of our early prototypes and minimum viable products, MVP, that ended up in the hands of early customers before we were ready. So on April the 3rd of 2018, we received our first order. We were all surprised, happy, and scared, but actually it served us a lot to learn what governments needed, how they wanted to buy, and how they were willing to improve and innovate on their own procurement processes. In 2020, we raised $500,000 and we're able to capture about $3.8 million in government sales through our procurement products, working with the state of Illinois, Florida, Pierce County, and other government agencies here in the United States. Lastly, in 2021, we grew our team and finally expanded into Latin America, hand in hand with the second largest city in the region, that is the city of Mexico. We are so grateful for the opportunity to put powerful solutions and platforms in the hands of those that are making very critical decisions for all of us. I invite you to join the rest of the team as we start having conversations with other government experts, advisors, and mentors on what the future for government is in celebration of our 4th anniversary.
Hello guys, I'm Gerardo Mateo and I'm the head of government software research and development here at Glass, and I'm very excited to celebrate our 4th anniversary. It's been an amazing year for us. It's been very challenging, but also it has been very rewarding. And the most important thing is that we have been able to show our babies, our little products that we have developed with so much love for the government people and for our societies. First one that I'd like to show you is our Commerce Local, which is a product for local governments where they're able to buy from their own small businesses in a very simple way. They're also able to buy from women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, or whatever they consider to be their socioeconomic goals. Here's an example of Buy Miami, which is our local portal in Miami for small businesses where they're able to sell to their local government and also to their community. The community is also able to find some of the discounts and offers that these small businesses have for them as well. And as you may know, governments are the biggest purchaser in the world. So we have our flagship product, Commerce, is a platform that allows them to buy from verified vendors that are offering government prices, so they can buy easily without a lot of paperwork and complexity. They're able to see the product description, images, and all the information that is relevant to them. They can add to cart, they can request a quote if they're not ready to buy something. And then they can also check out with different payment options that are optimized for governments, like government check, wire transfer, or a purchase order. So my favorite part of the office is actually these beanbags. They are very comfortable. And now I'd like to show you some of my favorite books, some of the books that we have here at the office. I have read some of them I haven't actually read them, but they're on my list. The first one is this one, The Hard Things About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. It's a really good book. And this one, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. So this one is actually about one of the challenges that many entrepreneurs go through whenever they're starting something new that hasn't been done before. And it's really cool and inspiring for those entrepreneurs that are out there that sometimes feel discouraged. This book is for you because it tells you that it's okay to not feel good all the time because you're building something hard. And this one, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, who is one of the founders of PayPal, who is here also in Silicon Valley. It's about how to create things from scratch and create things that are not perfect, but over time will continue to grow and become something powerful. And here we are with Stevie, who is our pet. It's actually a seat, but it has the shape of a dog. It's really cool. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoy seeing our office space and seeing the books that we like, the books that we haven't read yet, and some of our babies, our products.
Hola, bienvenidos. Mi nombre es Julesca Rosario. Soy jefa de productos y proyectos en Glass. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos hoy en la celebración virtual de nuestro 4º aniversario. Me toca hablar contigo nuestro segmento y único segmento en español, co-creando herramientas transformadoras con y para el gobierno. Como saben, Glass no solamente funciona en Estados Unidos, sino también que trabajamos con el gobierno latinoamericano, y este año nos expandimos a la Ciudad de México. Y es por eso que me hago acompañar de este segmento de Fabián López, director de Gobierno Abierto de la Ciudad de México. Fabián, bienvenido, muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros. Si te puedes introducir y hablarnos un poco de ti, por favor.
Hola, Wilesca, gracias por la invitación y gracias por sumarme a esta llamada. Pues sí, mi nombre es Fabián López, estoy a cargo de la Dirección de Gobierno Abierto en la Agencia Digital de Innovación Pública, que es la entidad de gobierno de la ciudad encargada de transformar la política pública digital. Ha sido un gran reto, pero estamos conscientes de que también las compras públicas requieren una gran transformación y estamos muy motivados por ello.
Sí, muchísimas gracias, Fabián. Fabián tiene un gran reto en la Ciudad de México y como parte de eso hemos estado colaborando juntos con un proyecto que se llama Módulo Prebases, Y bueno, Fabián, voy a empezar a hacerte preguntas de acorde a ese módulo. Háblanos un poco sobre el módulo prebase y cómo ese software avanza el sistema de compras públicas de la Ciudad de México.
Pues te cuento, Wilesca, que el sistema de compras públicas de la Ciudad de México se llama Tianguis Digital. Es un sistema que pretende generar una transformación completa de la forma en la que se registra, se monitorea y se conducen las compras públicas. Dentro de este eje de transformación de las compras, tenemos este pequeño, que es un módulo bastante innovador y bastante novedoso alrededor del mundo, que es la discusión de prebases de forma ordenada y de forma digital. Este módulo lo que pretende realizar es, tiene varios ejes. El primero es fortalecer la participación ciudadana, que los ciudadanos, los proveedores, la sociedad civil puedan contribuir a mejorar la forma en la que las unidades de compra están realizando o ejecutando sus procedimientos. El objetivo de esta herramienta es que ellos puedan subir sus documentos de compra y que puedan ser discutidos y analizados por todos en un periodo determinado, y que eso permita fortalecer la participación ciudadana en el sentido de que justo los ciudadanos puedan entender cómo se está comprando y qué se quiere comprar, pero también fortalecer el anexo técnico o los elementos técnicos de esa compra, para que la unidad no realice o ejecute compras que no se ajusten a las necesidades del mercado o a las necesidades de la ciudadanía. Con esta herramienta lo que vamos a lograr es que las unidades de compra cada vez compren en mejores condiciones de precio, mejores condiciones del mercado, porque el mercado siempre va avanzando de forma constante, y en algunos sectores económicos de forma muy acelerada, como son las tecnologías de la información. Sabemos que avanzan de forma muy acelerada, entonces la compra que yo hice el año pasado ya no es la misma que tengo que hacer este año, tiene que evolucionar. Entonces tiene que haber una constante actualización, y esta herramienta va a poner un contexto muy importante para cerrar ese ciclo de planeación de una compra.
Perfecto. El módulo prebases básicamente le da oportunidades a la unidad de compra de mejorar sus procesos, lo que adquiere, pero también le da apertura a las personas externas a la agencia a tener acceso y opinión sobre los proyectos que se desarrollan en las unidades compradoras. Como ya les dije, hemos desarrollado este módulo juntos, y de aquí viene mi próxima pregunta. Fabián, ¿cómo ha sido tu experiencia creando herramientas que eleven la calidad de los servicios gubernamentales, tanto con Glass como con otras empresas?
Pues ha sido un reto muy importante. Verdaderamente hemos trabajado, ha sido un esfuerzo conjunto tanto de la agencia digital como de otros aliados, como lo es Glass, y como lo han sido otras entidades como Open Contracting, como el Banco de Desarrollo de América Latina, que han estado muy interesados en que esto se ejecute y que este proceso de transformación se realice. Más que el interés y las alianzas que hemos logrado conformar, es justo ese proceso iterativo y ese proceso gradual y progresivo de liberar herramientas que sean ya útiles. No queremos tener una plataforma compleja que se libere en un solo momento. Queremos que vayan siendo módulos que progresivamente se vayan revelando al público, se vayan haciendo funcionales para las unidades de compra, y que vayan haciendo un proceso de transformación gradual. Entonces eso ha sido importante. La experiencia ha sido buena porque creo que todos tenemos un mismo objetivo, que es transformar las compras públicas, generar mejores incentivos para la transparencia, para la rendición de cuentas, y evidentemente reducir la corrupción. Entonces eso es como la visión, siempre ha sido en ese eje. Todo el trabajo que se ha hecho detrás ha sido complicado, pero a la vez muy divertido tener que atender estos retos, porque la visión es siempre la misma.
Sí, de parte de nosotros ha sido, yo diría que fácil trabajar con el gobierno de la Ciudad de México, porque se tienen los objetivos bastante claros. Mencionabas que el objetivo de los proyectos que se desarrollan en Tianguis Digital, en la Agencia de Desarrollo de la Ciudad de México, y también los partnerships que se han hecho, el objetivo es crear herramientas transformadoras, herramientas útiles. Y hablando de eso, te quisiera preguntar, ¿qué otras herramientas ve Fabián necesarias desarrollar para seguir transformando el sistema de compras públicas?
Pues existen, yo creo que muchas, como tal herramientas, existen muchas que se pueden empezar a implementar. Particularmente nosotros tenemos el reto de la transaccionalidad, que necesitamos urgentemente que la Ciudad de México pueda realizar compras públicas de forma digital y que todo el proceso punta a punta pueda conducirse a través de este mecanismo digital y que sea simplificado, que sea entendible, que tenga los mecanismos de seguridad y de confianza que permitan que los proveedores se acerquen, que se rompan esas barreras que existían a los proveedores para participar, que sea menos costoso para ellos tener que participar en una licitación pública y que eso incremente la competencia, reduzca los precios de las compras públicas y que eso se refleje en beneficios para la ciudadanía. Creo que hacerlo transaccional es uno de los retos más importantes. El segundo más importante, y creo que es un reto no solo de la Ciudad de México, sino también para el resto del mundo, es abrir información de compras. La apertura y la transparencia en las compras es fundamental para poder tener un mejor monitoreo, una mejor fiscalización y una mejor planeación de las compras. Entonces, creo que el tener cada vez más información pública sobre las compras, sobre cómo se planearon, cómo se están ejecutando y cómo se están administrando, es fundamental para que un sistema de compras públicas sea exitoso. Y eso es en lo que vamos a enfocar. Ajá,
exitoso, transparente y accesible también.
Correcto.
Mi última pregunta, ya para terminar, ¿cuál sería la única solución, basado en tu perspectiva, Fabián, que implementada por los gobiernos de Latinoamérica o de Estados Unidos, o mejor enfocarnos en Latinoamérica, ¿cuál sería esa solución que pudiera cambiar el acceso a las instituciones públicas como proveedores y ciudadanos individuales?
Primero, creo que la respuesta tendrá que ir en dos ejes. La primera es cambiar un poco la mentalidad de la forma en la que actualmente se conducen y cómo se perciben las compras públicas, lo cual es complicado si no existe una herramienta que permita vincular proveedores y ciudadanos con el gobierno, que ese es el segundo eje. Entonces, para poder cambiar esta mentalidad, tenemos que ir reeducando en la forma en la que se está conduciendo las compras públicas en la ciudad y para lograrlo tenemos que tener herramientas eficientes que logren acercar cada vez más a los proveedores y a los ciudadanos con el gobierno, que exista una conexión más directa y más cercana entre lo que sucede con las compras y quienes están vendiéndole al gobierno y quién está siendo el beneficiario final de esas compras. Entonces, ahí es donde creo que las soluciones tecnológicas y justo la creación de herramientas que cada vez sean más centradas en el usuario, en herramientas que estén diseñadas para atacar problemas específicos, para simplificar procesos, son fundamentales para que esta cercanía, esta conexión entre proveedores y ciudadanos pueda suceder en el corto plazo.
Muchísimas gracias, Fabián. En conclusión, desde tu perspectiva, y creo que también la comparto, la creación de herramientas que eficienticen los procesos gubernamentales actuales y con eso ayudando a crear conexión y apertura entre proveedores, gobierno e usuario final. Creo que también sería una herramienta que pudiera transformar el resultado que tienen los gobiernos y la percepción que también se tiene del gobierno. Compartimos esa opinión. Fabián, muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos, muchísimas gracias a todos ustedes que hoy están celebrando con Glass nuestro 4º aniversario. Nos vemos el próximo año o en cualquier otro evento durante el año y seguimos la celebración.
Muchas felicidades a Glass.
Gracias.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here for our anniversary. My name is Valentin Dragan and I'm the tech lead at Glass. And today we have with us for Carlos Leonardo, the director of the cybersecurity in Dominican Republic. Hi, Carlos.
Hi, Valentin. It's an honor for me to be here.
Can you tell us a few things about you, about your background?
Hello everyone. I'm Carlos Leonardo, and I'm the director of the National Cybersecurity Response Team, National CERT in Dominican Republic. And first of all, I have the responsibility to protect and to implement the national cybersecurity policies in all the government and in the critical infrastructure. So I think I am the chief of the firefighters in cybersecurity field.
Thank you, Carlos. I will have a few questions for you, and I will be more happy to hear your answers and to chat over them. So my first question is, how can the government build a healthy cybersecurity environment?
Yeah, I think that first of all, the governments must establish a governance structure and a model that involves all the stakeholders, like central government, law enforcement agency, civil society, academy, and of course, the private sector. In these days, policymakers should also consider the possibility to adapting cybersecurity indicators to measure the impact of applied policies and measures, aligned with international indicators that access and measure countries' level maturity level. In addition, they have to promote and establish alliances between the public and the private sector that allow executing the national cybersecurity strategy in a transversal way, impacting all the society in all the country.
And how this is working so far? It's has been applied and it's giving results?
Yeah, definitely here in Dominican Republic, we have since 4 years, I think, a national cybersecurity strategy, and we have a national cybersecurity council that is composed with the principal organization that have this responsibility in cybersecurity field, in technology field, digital government, intelligence agencies, defense, and all of them are management by the Ministry of the Presidency. So we're trying since a few years to establish a solid governance model to, and that may allow us to get the best results. Now, we are in the 6th position in the region, according with the national cybersecurity model that was evaluated by the UIT, the International Communication Unit, and I think we have presented very good results compared with the 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. So, talking also about the results, the next question is, how valuable is cybersecurity training for employees, and how often needs to be done?
Definitely, the training and education have a very high value. Training should not be an occasional process, it should be continuous. From the strengthening of the capacity of the technical staff of the organizations, and also the society in general. Cybersecurity maturity levels demonstrate that the training and the education should figure prominently in a country's national cybersecurity strategy. In Latin America, the governments of Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Guatemala, Mexico, and also Dominican Republic have published or adopted their national cybersecurity strategy, adopting this component of the training and education as a pillar or as a fundamental objective. These strategies encompass a capacity building framework and lines of action to strengthen cybersecurity education at a national level. And that's very important. And definitely, to be effective, a national plan for cybersecurity education must focus on two principal things. One, addressing cybersecurity education and the skill shortage. And two, raising awareness of the gaps and of the principal threat and the importance of this field.
Oh, talking about the awareness, how about awareness campaigns and trainings can lower the security breaches?
Yeah, the first thing that we have to do is to educate the people, not only the technical people, educate all the people in the society, so they can perfectly identify the risks. They perfectly must understood about how to use correctly the technology. So here in the Dominican Republic, we have implemented a national cybersecurity campaign in awareness in cybersecurity, and we have involved all the principal sector, not only the government sector, also the private sector, the academy, and all the citizens in all the country. So we're trying to introduce the cybersecurity program since the low levels education programs, the basic school, and we are trying to introduce also in the high levels in master degrees and high level degrees and in a specialized training course. So we're trying to have all the country covered, all the different segment of the population.
And yes, to minimize the breaches risk, the risk of getting. And so I also agree with the training of the people is very important to have all this covered.
Yeah.
Let's move to the next question, please. How can government agencies estimate the right amount of resources to allocate for cybersecurity?
That's a very difficult question because we have a lot of factors, but definitely only by carrying out a comprehensive risk analysis that covers all the needs, not only from the technological and equipment point of view, also by the establishment of a clear and specific policy and regulation for each of the strategic sectors, like energy, water, transportation, government. And having all these dimensioned is the key to estimate the resources that would be allocated, and at the same time, making a much more efficient use of them.
So right now, before in the government, before allocating the budget for it is done, this audit is done.
Yeah,
it's created before the budget to be allocated.
Yeah, but first of all, the government must carry out a risk analysis, a national risk analysis, and they must establish a clear and specific framework to identify where they have to assign those resources. Because cybersecurity is not only about technology, licenses, system, platforms. It's about policies, a good practice, governance, and you have to be clear where do you have to assign those resources.
And this is done based on the risk analysis.
Yeah.
Thank you. What are the top security measures that a government agency can take in order to be covered in case of a data breach?
Well, it's priority to have the regulation and the standards that make it mandatory for public and private organizations to have a rigorous process in the classification, management, processing, and treatment of the data, of course. Because in a data breach, there is not much that we can do once the data are exposed. However, with this regulation and with those best practices, we can ensure that the data is more secure and less accessible for the cyber criminals.
And right now there are all these put it in place, all these regulations.
Yeah,
like unison for all, for public and for government.
Yeah, correct. Definitely. Actually, we have since I think 10 years ago, we have a the first version of our data protection law, and in this moment we are making the modification of that law, and that law of data protection is applied to all the sectors, public and private organizations. And it's the best thing that we can do, because as I say, when we have a data breach, there is not much that we can do. So we must implement the correct process for processing and administering that data.
Okay. And that it's already in progress or almost complete, let's say like that. There are creative. Because I can see that different agencies can have different processes in terms of that, but taking on a high level, they are the same.
Yeah, but the government must make it mandatory, like GDPR in Europe, and actually that's the model that we are using, the GDPR model, and the country must implement that regulation since the high level. So definitely, when you have a law, when you have regulations, and you have a very clear mandate on those matters, the organization, public and private, they will adapt.
From my experience, when this is mandatory and it's applied, it's almost too late because data is out somehow. We can see Facebook, we can see other examples when the data is out before the regulation come in.
Yeah, definitely.
And we are at the last question. What is out there with high risk for the government that nobody talks about it, and it's a way to prevent it?
Well, I must say that the political wars are increasingly taking place in cyberspace. That the thing that nobody wants to talk about, but it's happening right now. States today use the technology to obtain the sensitive information that they need from their adversaries, as well as to disable their critical operation for impact their economic support. There are many more governments today that are attacked by other states than we are aware of. But we know that acknowledging this event could often generate negative media campaigns that could affect much more than the attacks themselves. So maybe we have a lot of governments that have been attacked by other states or countries, but they don't say too much. They don't recognize that have been attacked. And I think this is the very big problem that we have today. Not only our personal data is in danger. Today, we must be clear that the principal data that we have to protect is the government data, the sensitive data. And actually, The best way to prevent it is, as I said in the first question, establishment, the correct governance model, the correct policy. The government must have a national cybersecurity strategy that include cyber defense, cyber crime, cyber diplomacy, and all the components that may work together to strengthen the capacity of all the governments.
Okay, so if I understand it right, governments attack governments. So this is something that they don't talk about it because it's like a, I don't know why they don't say it, because it's like you are, I don't know, I don't find something to say why I'm not giving that, because maybe other neighbors will know about it and the data can be exploited or somehow, or
Yeah,
depends if they get any data or not.
Yes, it's a mediatic, I think, measure.
I get that. Okay, so we need to be aware of that also.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. I think has been insightful, and has been a pleasure having you and reply to the question that I prepared. Thank you to our audience for the time. I will allow Carlos to say one last thing.
Thank you, Valentin. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And definitely we must understand that the principal things that we must implement in all the countries and must be included in the national cybersecurity strategy is the education, the capacity buildings, because the first and the most efficient measure that we have in the cyber attacks, in the cyberspace, is to be aware about the threats, to be aware about the risk. And that's a capacity we only acquire by educating, and educating. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Has a great value, and thank you for your time. Thank you also everyone for being here. My name is Valentin Dragan, and I will be answering any questions, and please ping me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome everyone. My name is Andrea Uribe, Head of Government Intelligence at GLASS. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Mark Schillem, for accepting the invitation to participate in this event in which we are celebrating 4 years of GLASS, Transforming Governments. Mark here is a multi-awarded designer. He is the founder of Chief Creative Office and is a creative director behind Nike, HBO, Discovery, eBay, Aston Martin, Barnes & Nobles, and other 500 companies. Mark is also one of our advisors here at GLASS. Mark, I am so honored to have you here with us and having the opportunity to discuss the future of governments with an exceptional figure in the world of design. Welcome.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me.
Okay, so as I mentioned, we are going to be discussing the future of governments with you, and I have a few questions I would like you to answer. So the first question is, what comes to mind when imagining the future of governments for Mark Schillem?
It's really interesting. I pondered this, overnight as we were talking. You'd send me the questions, and I was pondering overnight, and I was thinking about government before it became a noun, and when it was a verb, and the idea of governance. And like, if you look at any governance system, so say one in a watch, the governor in the watch regulates the time of the watch. And it's imperative that the governor is connected to the rest of the watch in order for the watch to stay stable. And the relationship with the governor and the watch is a symbiotic relationship where the governor is neither the watch nor the watch is not without the governor. And the trouble is that now government has become so firmly fixed in everyone's minds as a noun, the government. I think it misses the fundamental bridge, which is it's meant to govern society and culture and people in a way that's symbiotic. That the government is us and we are the government. We understand why we're not the same, because otherwise we would upset the careful balance of what government has to do. And so when I think of the future, and I said this to Paola many times, that when I think of the future, I start to think about what systems, what technology we have in place today, where there is deep connection between everyone. And then obviously it's the internet. And so you kind of go, well, it's a very scary idea, isn't it? The government becomes deep decentralized. It's impossible. It can never happen, right? Because we're so used to the idea of a centralized government. Secrets will get out, everyone. And I think we would have said the same thing about banks. And I can remember, discussing Bitcoin super early on, and I'm no crypto kind of a kind of lover. It has its good parts and its bad parts, but the eventual decentralization of economics and finance seems imminent. And if I went back 15, 20 years, that wouldn't have been the case. And the same thing with information. Libraries were invented to keep books inside safe from the crazy people on the outside. And then libraries became where books are kept. And now the idea of a library is an open network of information. So when I imagine the future, I do imagine decentralization, a system of governance that's decentralized, that is the people. But the people fully understand why it's not the people themselves, why there is another. The question is, what is the other, and how do we get government back to being a verb?
Wow, that's very interesting, Mark. And I think we're very aligned in your answer. So based on that answer, what do you think is the role of design in the future of governments?
And this is a powerful question. I didn't get to last night, my crazy kind of stupor. But so if we know anything about the design of other decentralized systems, we understand that the initial designs never anticipated the end users. And so therefore we get undesigned outcomes. For instance, if you think about it in just the decentralization of information, with deregulation became defunding of information. And with defunding of information came a deprecation of quality of information. And suddenly you have bad information flowing at the speed of good information and nobody can tell the difference. So Web 2.0, the eventual socialization of the web, was like turning on a tap to a bad water source. And it just put bad water and good water in everyone's houses. And so I think design has to see that has happened before and understand that decentralization is going to have its risks. And we need to think, really like the founding fathers and mothers of America's way. Here we have the Constitution. We need to think of what is the foundation again. It isn't taking the Constitution and digitizing it. It is understanding what will be the Constitution in the network world. And so therefore, I had once the honor of sitting next to Tim Berners-Lee at some kind of event. And, the thing he said to me was, what you don't understand is hypertext protocol is very robust. It's a very well-made thing. And so therefore, if it gets used badly, it's a very powerful bad thing. And so I think we need to design, I think we can't anticipate all design scenarios. We need to design fail-safes. We need to design biofeedback. We need to be able to see the system working. We need to make it visible. It's so funny, right? I think the interesting thing about government is that if you were design a system that was so visible, everyone would go, but there's so much noise, and everyone gets overwhelmed. But if you look at nature is a governance system. But yet we wake up in the morning, we dream of it. We paint pictures of it. We visit it. We stand in awe of nature, which is just biofeedback system saying this moment is passing to the next moment and you should get indoors, it's going to get cold. Or if you plant something now, it will grow. We've understood it. And I think that probably we need to design something that's as visible as nature and as beautiful as nature, that we can look at and see and feel rather than understand. Because, you know, like if I've known anything from watching, you know, Glass's journey and Paola's journey with it, comprehending all of the information that exists on all levels is impossible for anyone. It's a Babel-sized problem. And so therefore, I think maybe design needs to make you see it. And so when I start thinking about that, I think about information visualization, data visualization, you know, like seeing it's okay, knowing when to participate, knowing when to yield participation and trust others, knowing when to get deeply involved, and knowing your role within it is all part of good design. But I mean design with a far broader understanding, you know, like the great architects, like the design as part of the world, because that's the trouble, is otherwise we make government yet another noun.
Amazing. And it's actually, you know, our experience, we're trying to not only decide or, you know, develop these new tools for government so that they can adapt to the new technologies and all this, but we're trying to also collaborate with them. And, you know, government is not very used to collaborating with the private sector. So, or not even within themselves sometimes. So in that case, Mark, what makes a great user experience for government? Like for them to, you know, we're creating these tools for them to use so that they can optimize their processes and all this that we're talking about. But also we have to, you know, take what they want to do, and also what they have. Exactly.
So I think the first thing is understanding the context. You know, this is always difficult, right? Everybody hates change. So everyone's going to deny it's going to happen. You know, me sitting in the newspapers in 1993, trying to tell everybody that the internet was going to change how media made sense and you couldn't rely on advertising. Still trying to help media companies today that still are denying it. Government change is an eventuality. Why? Because what we have today doesn't work sufficiently to even regulate, if we just think of governance, to regulate what we need it to regulate. And it can't, and it's currently the slowest gear in innovation. You know, the FAA can't keep up with the innovation in the air. The FDA can't keep up with innovation in drug and medical science and food. Like we can't keep up. So something has to change. The speed of the world doesn't, at least I would wish sometimes it slows down, but it doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon. So it's coming. Therefore, we have to caveat anyone in government to say, it isn't what you want. What we've got to do is to create a slip differential between what they want and what has to happen, and speed them up as a comfort, or sorry, the most acceptable, uncomfortable speed that they're willing to deal with. And at the same time, get them up to speed with what's happening in the world. And that for me comes with, you know, user experience in a big design sense, which is we're not designing the interfaces and products. What we're trying to do is to take people through design experience thinking to understand that they've got to come back out of the, they've got to mine their way out of the now. Right. And it's difficult because there's like the crust of 100, 250 years of ways of doing it is holding them back. But just tell them that the librarians who's kept the people out of libraries made this transition before they did. And libraries are the great institution that we have now is down to some of the great American thinking. It is that you can visit a library and, you know, the internet too. So I think that we've got to set the context as an eventuality, work with, I would say, the most enlightened government thinkers who are almost at the speed of what everyone needs. Think about how we build utilities tools and scale for them. I mean, the only thing that I think is kind of super interesting is that government has to scale. And the only things that scale without cost are robots, like a certain level of automation. And so there is a sense that there is a Henry Ford moment that's going to happen to government, that there is a level where things have to be automated at a certain level for other things to be prioritized. And so, you know, everything's paper, you know, like there's a ton to do. But like, that's maybe the one thing I think that they missed in the infrastructure bill. They were looking at roads and bridges. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's the problem, actually. I think the roads and bridges is just a symptom of a larger problem, which is the government can't work out what to do. And, you know, I mean, not to, you know, military officials understand this. It's because they have to move at the speed of a war, and no one likes the idea of war, but there's nothing like war to help people understand how you have to move. And so maybe it's getting some of the military strategists into government and say, how would you take the government on like a field hospital version of itself, take the government to a location and set up a kind of temporary government service in the field, and then maybe kind of prototype these things to work from what people learn? Because, you know, the will is there. I swear, or at least for the next 10 years, maybe, the will is there in the people. But in 10 years, I'm not sure the will's going to be there. I think that, you know, we don't want chaos. Nobody wants it. It's not beneficial to anyone. Overthrowing the capital and all of this nonsense. It makes no sense. What makes sense is, what should the capital become? Not invading it and hunting down the people who are trying to find solutions.
You know, Mark, it's interesting, everything that you said. It takes me back to a blog that we published like this month, actually, at the beginning of the month, in which we researched the role of government in innovation, and more specifically in funding R&D. Yeah. And they have been the biggest and largest.
The internet.
It's insane. The internet, GPS,
yes,
even the Google engine, you know, Siri, everything came from our government R&D, and then, you know, like from money, like, you know, funding.
Because the people that are running government R&D, though, were military people. I'm not like saying that I love military people or I'm a warmonger, but what I do love is that military people are, shall we say, they're looking for outcome led. They're outcome led. They're like, okay, what do we need to do to get this? And by the way, you know, NASA too. You know, NASA shouldn't be underestimated in all of this. They're outcome led too, and they're like, you know, everybody's working out the edge cases that might happen. Everyone's doing, like, you know, digital twins, triple redundancy. They're always thinking, you know, what's the slowest part of the system and how it's going to let us down. So, you know, those people don't want to get involved in government per se. It's because they see it as weighty and slow and full of red tape, and that's only purely because it's analog. Now, that's not to say being digital is going to be the solution, because hacking and all of these kind of problems. But I don't mean being digital in terms of the media. I mean being digital in the terms of the way you think. Digital is a duality. Digital means that there's an input and output. Digital means that it's a conversationary relationship. And at the moment, the government is a dictatorship. And that's, you know, I'm not trying to point fingers at any government per se. It's just the way it's set up, because it's secretive. And so therefore it is not government. I actually say today, the government is not governing, because it does not connect it to the people.
Yeah, no, and it's sadly, it is true. And also what you're saying, you know, digital is not just like, let's digitize for the sake of digitizing, is, you know, like it's getting the headspace of what's going on in the world. And if you're going to benefit from technology, you know, in the path of adopting that mindset, then so be it. But it's not, yeah, it's definitely not like digitizing for the sake of like using technology. So in that same end, Mark, how would you evangelize design thinking methodologies in government that would give room for innovation?
Yeah, it's super interesting. And the problem with all of this is that design itself is also stuck in the opposite. I've never thought of this before, but it's stuck in the opposite problem. Design is a verb. rather than a noun. And so it's very tactical. And, you know, like if I would be to talk to, you know, I had a wonderful moment where the Department of, what did Hillary Clinton run? She'd done the Department of Homeland Security, maybe? I don't know what she was running. Anyway, their team invited me in, and I was amazed by them. Very, very smart people. Design is stuck in being a verb. So like when people are asked to come in and talk about design, the decisions are already made. My challenge more is to the designers. Should we not be active in thinking about governance and the models of governance? And so I would say the designers and engineers, and I would say design, big D design, not big D thinking design, maybe design including engineers, i.e. the people who can facilitate and make. You know, the engineers that built things like hypertext protocol should be inside of government thinking, how do we start building connection points? And it's probably going to happen in a small government first. It's probably going to be happening, you know, like a government of a much smaller country, because they don't have the legacy setups, and you can build connection points between organizations. But like I'd say the difficulty is that, you know, and Paola, you know, she has studied to understand law and legal frameworks and government frameworks. Like a designer has to start to do that first, because you can't really be in it unless you understand it. And the system is the system. Now, you can also, the trouble is, once you've learned the system, can you unlearn it? And can you imagine new systems? But I think that probably the government, there's a couple of examples. I think in the gov.uk, there was a wonderful team that went in and designed the web portal for the government in the UK. They did an exceptional job of sharing information. What they didn't do was challenge the idea of government. It became an effective interface into the existing government. I mean, the danger with all of this is that unless we design the root causes of all of the problems, all we are is decorating. And, you know, does another senior political figure trust a designer to come in and understand and comprehend the problems? And that's a design problem. It's the way we've communicate what design is. You know, like much as I love Johnny Ive, it's all very commodity based. It's all very visceral. But really, design is protocols. That's what the engineering teams are doing. And actually, the funny thing is, the people who are closest to understanding this are Disney, because they understood very early on that the engineers weren't enough to create great experiences. And so Imagineering was that fusion of design, creativity, imagining, and engineering, and then criticizing and creating experiences. Like, so I wonder what the Imagineering team looks like inside the government. What is the experiences that we want to have? Obviously, you know, the government isn't a teacup ride or a roller coaster, but it has as much power and effect on your life as those things. And so if it was better, you should really have an engineering, imagining team. And the genius of Walt Disney was that he didn't just say, hey, there's a whole team of management consultants who work out what the rides are, and then the design team gets to choose the color. He said, no, you don't understand. The child's mind is the designer's mind. And the child just wants to go for a ride in the designer's mind. And the designer just wants to find the inner child and connect with it. And so that was the genius of Imagineering. So the question really back to you is like, what does everyone who gets into government really dream of? And how do we find that feeling and connect it to the people that also want that feeling out in the public? And that's the first place we start.
Wow, I love that, because it's, you know, like what you're trying to say, I think, is, you know, it's everyone's role, even if you're not like a designer, a professional designer, to sort of design the future of government.
You were a child once, exactly. Well, yeah, why did you get into it? I mean, I imagine most people got into government. I will remove my intensely cynical mind here. But I imagine that most people got into government the good people, because they thought, well, it's clear to me that this could be better and I could get it done. The danger is, of course, then they just march up the Tower of Babel and they tell each other, well, it could be better. And everyone tells each other it could be better. And eventually everyone says, well, the reason why it isn't better because, and then they tell each other the reason why it's not better. And therefore it's never is better. And the idea of government, right, which is the caucus, the democratic, and this is why I think we have to challenge democracy, because the democratic sensibility arrives at zero momentum. Because there usually is enough people who say no to something that will say yes. And so that's why the government moves at that speed. The question is the government moving at the right speed? And I don't think so. Like, and you can tell, right? Because, you know, Elon Musk will kind of become a government. Jeff Bezos will become a government. Why? Because they're moving faster and they're adopting more minds, more money, more outcomes, and there's people are looking at them. In fact, the interesting thing is that Elon Musk is governing, right? He's saying, well, hold on, like, if electric vehicles are the future and batteries don't work, we're gonna have to go back into why batteries don't work. How can we get back to raw materials? I think get batteries cheap enough, but how do we get the power? If we get the power, we got the sun. Okay, we get the sun, we need roofs. If we do, he's just basically governing. All he's doing is governing. And he was saying, how do we get to space? Okay, so we need reusable rockets that land back down, but that's impossible. So how do we get that? All he is doing is governing. He is that bit in your watch that says, no, hold on. Time's moving like this. This is what we can do. We can solve these things. And so people are now looking at Elon Musk, and it's not right? Because nobody would elect him. Not in a hair's chance of being elected, because he's too polarizing. But maybe we should just look at the way he governs and think about governing systems and governing principles. Now, you know, I agree with you, you know, the idea that everybody has a role to play. But then if everyone has a role to play, it should be fun-ish. And I'm not saying that filling out tax returns isn't fun, but you know what I mean? Like, it's serious business that the government's involved with. But I think that, like, I'm now an American. Like, I took my civics test. It wasn't easy, but it was fun-ish. And I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty interesting that I can remember, you know, Woodrow Wilson and why was he anything to do with World War II or whatever? Like, or World War I. Like, I had to sit and learn those things, and because I understood an ideological point that meant that I was unified with the people of the country that had learned these things. So I think that there's a ton of civic will that people have, and especially people who are underrepresented have, that can be converted into momentum. And I have a feeling we're going to have to leave the government, the noun government, behind. I think it's a good thing for a book. We can all look back on it. And the Constitution is now sold for $42 billion, however much it just sold for yesterday, the original mark of the Constitution. And I was like, you know, maybe that's a good line to put a line under it and move forward. And just move forward with things that make sense.
Definitely. And what you were saying about, you know, Elon Musk, like, he cannot govern, or, you know, Jeff Bezos or whoever we're talking about. At the same time, I think it has a good part of it that this is happening because it's the way that, like, you know, you pinch government. Okay, like, there's
look at that works. Yeah,
exactly. And not only that, but it's like, so is it working or is it not working? And then what are we going to do about this? So yeah, it's very interesting, Mark. Thank you so much. I'm so humbled about having the opportunity to talk to you. I hope we can talk soon, and thank you everyone for participating in this interview. It was great. Have a great rest of your day.
And thank you. Happy birthday to class.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Catch you later.
Hello all, I'm Anthony Rivas. I'm the vendor lead, and I'm very excited to be here with you today. So from my side, we wanted to show you this powerful tool that we have built for small businesses, for them to be able to digitize their catalog of inventory and transforming them into online stores for them to be able to sell to the government. So as we know, small businesses may not have the muscle or the time to go through bids or to RFQs to see if they're going to win a sale to the government. So with this tool that we have built for them, they are able to sell to the government not only faster, but easier. So with nothing else to add, we want to show you this tool and we can start. Okay, so this is the website where the government can come and they can buy from any small business. They just simply need to search. They search for a product or a service that they need and they will be able to find it here. But first, for the small business to be able to appear here and be able to sell to the government, they will first need to register. So the first thing that they need to do is that they need to go to this for vendors page, where they will find all the information, the features that we give to them for free. So we encourage the businesses to be able to come here to see all the benefits that they will have and be able to sell here. So now I'm going to show you how simple it is for any business to register. So we click this button and we will need to fill out a simple form that is fast and you will have your store ready in 1 minute. So just put your email, your password, and your business name. We have made it super simple for any business to be able to create their store. As you may see, it only takes 1 minute for you to be able to have your store ready. So this is the account. So after the business have successfully created their store, the first thing that they will see is all the statistics that they will be having when selling to the government. Here they will have all the information that they need to know regarding their sales, their taxes that they need to pay, and etc. So the first thing that the business will need to do in order to sell to the government is that they will need to upload their inventory that they have. So they will need to go right here to upload, and we have enabled some methods for them to do so. So if a small business have a small amount of inventory, they could do it one by one with this method right here. But if they have a large amount of inventory, they could do it with that second method that we have here, and they're able to onboard them all at once. And we also have an API integration where if a business have a website, we could connect with that, and all the information that they have here, they will have it here. And also, I wanted to show you that we give full support to our vendors, and they're able to have a help center where they could see all the questions that we have been asked before, and they could also schedule a meeting with me right here if they want me to ask something or they need help on boarding their products. They're able to schedule a meeting with me and we could do it together. And also they have here a live chat. If they want to chat with me and onboard their products here right now, they are able to chat with me and I will be able to assist them. And after they have successfully onboarded their inventory, I want to show you how it looks like. They could preview their store here, and they will be able to see how the government will see their products and how they will see when they buy from them. So this is their store, this is all the products that they have, and they will be able to select, add to cart, and buy. So this is the powerful tool that we have built for small businesses for them to be able to sell to the government. I hope you like it, and we just have shown you a little bit of all the things that we can do.
We hope that you've been able to enjoy as much as we have this celebration of learning and envisioning the future of governments together with some of our government partners, our government advisors and mentors. We've been able to capture some very important learnings in the last 4 years, and we want to share these learnings with you. The first big learning is to ask better questions and to ask more questions to our government partners to really understand what do they need from us and how can we help them improve their current processes and the day-to-day. The second biggest learning is, if you're asking big and better questions, you need to learn how to listen more. And we've been listening more to what our government partners think that we should help them do, as opposed to assume and come up with designs of what we think is the future of governments. Our last big learning is about not rushing the process of creating a category-defining and groundbreaking solution for the biggest decision makers in the world. With that, I want to close our celebration. Thank you so much for being with us. Remember that we have amazing government products for you to check. We have Commerce, we have Buy Local, and we have also GetQuotes.Glass. You can check them out. We are hiring. Please join this amazing global team that is changing governments worldwide. And lastly, subscribe to our YouTube channel and also to our newsletter at Discover.Glass. So let's end up this celebration with cake. But one last thing, I'm excited to share that we've been expanding into Brazil earlier next year. And also to announce that we have secured our third collaboration with Ciudad de Mexico, the City of Mexico, to continue improving their procurement system to make it inclusive, diverse, and accessible for everyone. With that, I think we have completed all the amazing news that we wanted to share with you. We hope that you have enjoyed this celebration. Thank you so much and stay tuned on what the future for government holds. Bye-bye.